and welcome to Men Behind the Curtain, the podcast about everything and nothing all at once. I am Pitt.
I'm Eli. How's it going, y'all?
And you know what? I'm just right before we get into everything that we do or everything that we just fuck around with, and before we get to catastrophe, I'm just going to hit the main topic on everybody's mouth and social services. I'm going to go as far as calling it the 12-hour suspension of TikTok.
Yeah, which when they first announced the ban, I figured it was not going to go away. I was a little bit surprised that Supreme Court held it up 9-0, which I don't buy. It was for national security. Get the fuck out of here.
My thing is, I've always been told my entire life to follow the money, and Meta is a publicly traded entity, and ByteDance is not. And let's look at exactly who has the money vested into Meta. Considering the fact that Meta is now doing away with their fact-checking platform and shit like that. So,
although I will say, fucking Elon, the corporate welfare queen, the welfare queen that Reagan warned us about back in the 80s, him adding community notes to Twitter, because I will not fucking call it that, was actually an improvement, because it is fucking hilarious when somebody gets read for filth and then you just get a fucking community note, especially when it's under Elon's post. That is fucking hilarious, and he gets so pissed off.
Well, he did it to himself, stupid cunt. But speaking of stupid cunts, we'll come back to Marjorie Taylor fuckstick. But we're gonna talk about the dumb orange cunt. He's probably sitting there taking credit for this. He's like, I'm the one who saved TikTok. I brought it back after they got rid of it. It was me. Listen, you dumb fucking cunt. You were the one who tried to get rid of this app and service 4 years ago. Now you're coming in and trying to be the savior, so to speak. So my thing is like this. What if it's one of those things like, oh, they're going to shut it down, but now we want to keep it open because he's being, he's going through the inauguration and shit like that. And I'm sorry, Dr. King is probably turning in his fucking grave. Like, why on this day?
You know what? About that, one thing I will say, as a country, we fucked up, because tomorrow, Martin Luther King Day, could have been Kamala's inauguration. We really fucked up here. But yeah, I know he's already taken a victory lap. I've actually seen a couple of screenshots. Really, all he's doing, he's going to give it a 90-day extension. He's kicking a can up the road, and he's trying to have at least like a 50% American ownership, which I still don't trust that.
No, because the person who's going to own it it's already the people who own Meta and Twitter and all the conservative and very extremely right wing media organizations.
Here's the part that bothers me, and I don't feel like enough people really talk about this. Well, some people do talk about it, but I don't feel like the right media outlets are talking about this. So allegedly, we don't trust it because it's foreign owned. If everything has to be American owned before we trust it, that is this fucking close to just state-run media, which historically speaking, that never goes bad.
I think the last state-run media, and I know there's some out there now. We're talking, certain countries in the Middle East that are very Sharia law and stuff like that. But look at the media corporations in Russia, in the Soviet Union, and let's go as far back as we can keep going. We can go Vietnam, then we can go Korea. We can still go Korea now, and we could also look at Germany 1930s. And when you have that much control, it's never good. Never good.
Yeah. And when I don't remember the president of TikTok, CEO. I don't know what his title is. I don't remember his name. But when he was in front of Congress, I'm sorry, that hearing was the just most xenophobic shit I've ever fucking seen. Because are you a part of the Chinese Communist Party? He's like, I'm Singaporean, but are you part? Like, bitch, do you understand Singapore is a different country? Like,
Well, you know,
and
I'm going to come out and say it. I'm just going to come flat out, right? Fucking say it. The majority of white people cannot tell the difference between the Asian cultures.
you know what? I'm I at a glance, looking at them, there are very few that I can actually tell apart. But I think that has to do with the fact that I just
You're
have
partially
not.
white.
Yeah, there's that too. But actually, you know what? The joke that we make about how all y'all look alike. So here's the thing: it all comes down to exposure, and I can prove it because we keep saying that they all look alike. But when you watch Squid Game, I know who every single fucking one of these are. Like you can tell the difference once you're looking at all of them. But no, outside of that, no, I can't. It's okay. It does sound a little bit bigoted, and I'm sorry for that. I genuinely can't tell the difference a lot of the time.
Well,
Um,
but I think you are onto something there when you're talking about exposure to specific cultures. Like, okay, so like I grew up, Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, inner city, and some rural areas because I just moved and whatnot. And because I grew up in the inner city, and and it's the whole racist thing, about certain cultures all looking the same. I mean, I grew up in a at one point in an area that was predominantly 80% black. So when I started hearing comments like black people all look the same and stuff like that, I'm like, what do you mean? No, they don't. you know, I was I was subjected and I was put into a particular cultural aspect of things to where I'm able to pick out the seemingly visual differences between people, and we're not even going to go into the actual differences, of personality. We're just talking about the visual differences.
right.
Now, I will admit that I haven't really been immersed in Asian culture, whether it's Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Singaporean, India, things of that nature. But I can, at least in some instances, notice a distinct difference, and it might be something subtle. It might be something in the way they, present themselves or in the way they approach you with dialogue. And for me, that's a big, that helps me as a big indicator that, I am dealing with this particular, cultural aspect. But my thing is, like I said, the majority of white people, if you line up a Japanese individual, you line up a Chinese individual, a Vietnamese individual, a Singaporean individual, somebody from India, Vietnam, if you line them up, the only one they're going to be able to pick out is the fucking individual from India. That's it.
Probably.
That's the only person most white people will be able to pick out of just individual pictures. So,
No, actually, you know what I just thought of? This perfectly sums up the average American's recognition of Asians and different groups or sects within the Asian community. Do you remember the episode of King of the Hill where they introduced Khan?
oh yeah.
He straight up said, "Are you Chinese or Japanese? I am the ocean." The ocean? Which one? And then it came back around, and Hank eventually asked again, "Are you Chinese or Japanese?" Like, honestly, you know what? That sums up the average American. Yeah. It really does.
Well, and I'm only naming a few. I'm leaving out Taiwanese and stuff like that. There are so many Asian countries that could be thrown into that. And again, and what's funny about that is the majority of most white Americans don't even know these countries exist. Like, oh, they're all the same, and that's pretty much their take on it. So
I think Khan was the first time I had heard of Laos. Genuinely.
I heard of Laos from my history books, but That was my history books. Remember, you went to an inner city school too, so you should have learned all that shit. That's on you.
Whoa. I went to the inner city school that was worst in the state.
I never said it was a good inner city school.
Although, all things considered, I think I came out pretty well. I'm a little bit of an exception to the rule. I will acknowledge that, but I think I turned out okay overall.
Okay, so I'm going to take the stereotypical low road here. Of those that I've met from your inner city school, yes, you are probably the most well-rounded and educated individual I have ever met. It's not saying much, but it's.
I'm not even fighting it.
All right, so yeah, let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Fuckstick. Apparently the government did not get the clue about the fucking weather because I just drove through a fucking snow squall that I could not see a quarter of a fucking mile in front of me. So, Marjorie Taylor cunt, you got to work harder, bitch. Work harder.
Oh my god. I think we talked about this last week, but I still find it fucking hilarious how she still is buying into that. Oh, that they're controlling the government, and she is asking them to please stop starting forest fires. Like, so according to your logic, you as in Dog the Bounty Hunter, they're setting themselves on fire. The math is not mathing.
Yeah, you're asking whomever. I mean, you turn on the rain. For fuck's sake, lady, come on. What a dumb fucking cunt. I'm being serious. I don't think I've ever come across anybody that fucking dumb.
I spent a couple of years trying to decipher, is she actually that dumb, or is she just aware of how dumb her base is? And I think it's a bit of both.
Quiet, Loki.
Of course, she should never, ever, 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 ever get to live down when she mispronounced indictable. And for anybody who didn't catch that, this dumb bitch pronounced the C in it and said indictable. I'm also half convinced. I think she wants to fuck Hunter Biden.
Possibly, but she's not indictable.
She is undickable.
Yeah, very true. All right, we're going to move on to catastrophe since we got the cunt in. All right.
We got multiple in that.
Multiple cunts, yeah. There'll probably be a few more coming along the way. So, all right. So we're going to go with our first catastrophe of the segment. Oh, this is going to be interesting. What weird smell do you enjoy? And if you say your own flatulence, we're on the same page.
I don't know if it's a weird smell or not. I actually genuinely enjoy like fresh cut grass.
I can see that. I mean, I like fresh cut grass too. It's a great smell. I mean, but to me, that's almost like comparable to the smell of the rain, like that ozone smell.
Which that's my favorite thing about springtime is when it's about to rain and you can smell it in the air. I fucking love that. If fresh cut grass doesn't work, I don't know. Fresh pair of shoes, like straight out of the box, unworn.
Oh,
that's not bad.
No, that's a great smell too. I mean, to me, the fresh, the smell of new shoes is equivalent to that of putting on a brand new pair of socks. It's like, as my youngest daughter would say to me, it's like wearing clouds.
Actually, it's funny. So I know that I've got a couple. I have a couple pairs of Adidas that I bought like actually almost 2 years ago, and I wear them very little because I try to keep them in good shape, and it pisses me off. So I have a black. I've always basically like give me a clean white pair of shoes, clean black pair of shoes, and I'm good. But my clean white Adidas, all white, are the more comfortable of the two. And that feels like a really cosmic fuck you because those little they're all white. I try not to wear them, but they're comfortable and I want to wear them.
Absolutely. No,
um,
let's
but
see.
yeah,
So go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say to answer the question, I'm gonna go with fresh cut grass. If y'all don't think that that's a weird smell, I'm going with shoes. If that's still not acceptable, I don't fucking know.
Well, I'm going to go back to the fart comment. Um, because everybody thinks their own fart smell great, and if you say you don't, you're fucking lying. So, apply the hot water from the shower to that, where it just kind of like beef stew. No, I digress. Weird smell, and no, I'm not going to say liver and onions because that just makes me want to vomit just as much as sauerkraut. Weird smell that I like. I don't know. I mean, God, there's so many smells that I enjoy, like the rain, fresh cut grass, new shoes, my own farts. It's I know the one smell that I don't like is when I walk into an old people's house that has that mix of like patchouli and death.
Oh God.
God, weird smell. I don't know. It probably has something to do with cooking. More than likely, I really can't place a weird smell because most things that I don't enjoy smelling, I just don't go around sniffing. So
that's fair.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not one of my dogs. So there we go. I don't know.
Actually,
I have to think about it.
it's funny though when you mention like going into an old person's home or something like that, and that smell. My parents smoked cigarettes my entire life. Um, and I got immune to it. I did not realize how bad cigarette smoke actually smells
Oh yeah.
until I moved out, got my own apartment, and then I came to visit them for the first time. I walked through the door and I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like,
Yep.
that was horrific.
And the walls are yellow. And yeah, because my dad was a lifelong smoker. He said he started smoking when he was 12. And,
Jesus.
when we went to clean up his house, I mean, I had to like have the walls cleaned and repainted because the walls were just nicotine stained and stuff like that. But I used to smoke for a while. After I quit, the one smell I can't stand is that of cigarettes. It's absolutely just makes me, nauseated. So, yeah, but I do love the smell of cigars, and that's one of the reasons I smoke them because they smell and taste great.
Honestly, I'm not going to fault you on that.
So, all right, our next one. If you had the opportunity to become immortal, would you take it?
Honestly, I don't think I would because that would be fun for 100, 200 years, something like that. But after a while, there are no more mountains to climb, literally or figuratively. There's more women to fuck, but in a way, there's no one left to fuck. Like, there's only so many things. Like, I want to learn how to play guitar. I would like to learn how to play piano. But after like 200 years, I'm fucking bored.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you know what? I take that back because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 100 years, provided that anybody's still left. But I mean, video gaming, like VR was not a thing when I was a kid, and I've done VR now. It's fucking amazing. Who knows where it's going to be in 10, 20 years? But
hopefully a holodeck like on Star Trek.
I don't think I would want. That would be fucking amazing. I don't think I would want straight up immortality. I might want 200 to 300 years, but not. I'm going with the Queen song, "Who Wants to Live Forever." That's my final answer.
No, and I agree with you on pretty much all the points. I would like just enough time to learn everything I wanted to learn and whatever I wanted to do, and then be like, okay, I'm done. Clear a path for my legacy, which would be my children, and that'd be it. Just enough time to make sure that whatever it is that I have a legacy about carries on and doesn't have to worry that. And then I'd be like, okay, deuces.
Actually, it was funny. So I remember I came across a TikTok Had to be at least a year and a half ago. And I can now date how long I saw them based on where I was living, which I recorded this in my old kitchen. Um, Medical science was saying that we could potentially now live up to like 140 years old, and I'm like, do I have to? Because I've kind of seen enough.
Yeah. No. I don't know. For me, I think 80 is going to be too long for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the idea, if I'm being totally honest.
All right. Here's a chicken T-Rex question.
All right.
Would you rather meet your ancestors or descendants?
I'm gonna have to go with descendants because um, if I met my ancestors as a biracial person, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit someone in the mouth.
um uh, you know what? I know a lot of people are probably going to say ancestors because a lot of people know, what practices I ascribe to. But I'd actually say descendants because I would actually like to see where they actually went in life, what changes they made to society, what did they do to make themselves better, what did they do to make society better. And I am completely assuming that they're going to carry on trying to make things better for everyone, because who knows, I could have given or helped father the supreme leader of the galactic empire.
I I am hoping. Um, I know we like to make a lot of Star Trek references, but me personally, I'm hoping that we have more of a Star Trek future because that is like the best of humanity, like what we aspire to be. So I would like to see that, but at the rate things are looking, we might be looking more Mad Max.
Yep, and none of us are named Joe.
Which just as a quick tangent, I'm still really I'm a little confused as to like why they did a Furiosa movie. I haven't watched it yet. I don't know if it's good or not. I just didn't feel like her character had enough to justify making the movie. And honestly, Fury Road, it was a good action movie, but that's really all it was. Like I was watching this to see people get shot the fuck up. And I mean, I got that, but story wise, it was skippable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why they did a Furious, I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I didn't find the character that interesting enough to have a standalone.
Like, I don't hate it. And I mean, Charlize Theron is a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just didn't feel like her character was interesting enough to, I didn't care to explore it.
Yep. All right. And our last catastrophe. Best snow activity.
As a kid, hands down, my number one answer would have been a snowball fight. And anybody who's old enough to have had a snowball fight will if you don't agree with me, you can at least understand why that's my answer. Today, fuck, we barely have enough snow to have a snowball fight. I don't know, because I never really did. I never really had like snowball fights or building a snowman with my kids or anything like that. Half the time is because we didn't have enough snow. The other half of the time, one of us, probably me, didn't feel like it. um, favorite snow activity? I don't know. I think honestly, like my enjoyment at this point of my life starts and ends with just looking out and seeing a fresh coat of snow. Because once I have to go out and be in the snow, I fuck fuck all of this.
I know. See, I actually got three different answers for this, and it actually, goes through, three sections of my life. as a kid, it was going out and playing it. It didn't matter if it was building a snowman, building a fort, having a snowball fight, going sledding, uh, you know, things of that nature. Even ice fishing was fun. Um, later on, probably about my 30s, I would say, running an obstacle course like the Winter Warrior and stuff like that. I thoroughly enjoyed. That was my favorite snow activity, and there were snowball fights during that too. So now it's sitting in an all seasons room where it's nice and toasty warm as I kick my feet up with a cup of coffee and a cigar and just watching the snowfall. That right now is my favorite.
I'm not mad at that. I know this is the third year in a row that we've been down in Tennessee around Christmas time. And every single time I've been a little bit disappointed in, like, I wanted a dusting. Now, we're usually up on a hill, like, it's not usually a mountain. I would say it's more foothills of the mountain is where we're usually staying. So snow would make getting up and down the road a pain in the ass. And I don't want snow, but I want like a dusting because it'll look pretty.
Yeah.
That has not happened. But yeah. And actually, I did forget sledding when I was a kid. My mom she graduated from Urbana, and their high school mascot was like the Hill Climbers or some shit like that. Their high school sits on a big ass hill. One year, they got us sleds for Christmas. It barely qualified as sleds because it was a little thin piece of plastic with a cushion for your ass. That's all it was. And you had a handle. But we went down that fucking hill. It was the best fucking time. So I will agree with that one.
All right. And we're going to get the comments. Somebody say, you didn't say fucking.
Because I don't... Look, I'm not going to be uncomfortable while I'm fucking. Like, that just doesn't sound like a good time.
Yeah, no. I mean, we'll talk about shrinkage. Yeah. So thank you for joining us for Cat's Astrophy. Of course, if you got any comments or anything you'd like us to comment on, please send us an email at menbehindcurtain@gmail.com or leave it in the comments down below and on your favorite streaming service. So I really don't have much nerd news other than the fact that the wife and I are rewatching Into the Badlands. Just because,
I love that show.
Just because she stopped after like season 1 and only saw a couple of the second season, so now she's getting caught up throughout the whole thing. But yeah, that's pretty much the only nerd stuff I've got going on right now. We're awaiting the release of the new Captain America movie, so that's 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Today's the 19th as we're recording it, so more like 3 weeks, I think, because I think it releases like on Valentine's. Okay. Now, I loved Into the Badlands. The fight choreography is fucking phenomenal. I think it was in the second season, Sonny meets a guy who has like an obsidian sword, and it's the coolest fucking weapon.
Nathaniel Moon is the name of the character. Yeah.
My only really two complaints with the show. Number one, and I think everybody will share this complaint, is just about it being canceled. Like the way that season 3 ended, like, oh, there was so much here. Like, but secondly is MK's character. First of all, there's no fucking way his actual name was MK. Who the fuck names your child 2 letters? I want to know what that stood for, or what it was short for. But the way that his character was introduced, and the show's years old. It looked like he was going to be a huge protagonist for the show, and then the way that he just became a villain of the show, like it was a worse transition to me than fucking Daenerys. Yeah. Although Daenerys, I still think made sense.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you look at the nurse, she was actually headed in that direction. I mean, it was an actual was more of a natural evolution of, her character for that progression to get there. So
I would argue that in Daenerys's case, she didn't change. That's who she always was. It's just that when she was in, was it Essos, I believe, like when she was going through Marine and all those other cities, She was the heinous. She was the same heinous bitch in King's Landing that she had been in Marine and all those other places. The difference is that in Marine, we felt that they deserved it.
And I can agree with that. My thing is that natural progression. She basically wants to end the slavery, but she knows the brutality of the slavers and everything that in Essos and Westeros and whatnot. So in her mind is let's give them a piece of their own medicine. And to me, that's not exactly progressing in a positive manner. All you're basically doing is becoming the aggressor in that manner. It's like, all you're doing is the same thing they were doing to you.
Yeah. And then it may have been Marine. I don't remember which city it was, but one of the city's rulers, he tried to kill her, and then she locked him and his entire entourage in that vault to basically die of starvation. Which, if you want to kill him, that's fine. That's a really fucking cruel way to kill a person. But he did try to kill you, tit for tat. Fine. But everybody else that she locked in there with him, they had fuck all to do with what happened. They didn't deserve that.
Right.
Then Samuel Tarley's father and brother. She did not have to kill them. They could have just been prisoner. And quite frankly, killing them where she thought that she was appearing strong, what she was actually doing was being a tyrant.
Yep.
So yeah, by the time she got to King's Landing, she came wanting a fight. So surrender or not, she was going to get a fight, and that's what happened.
Yep.
So I don't think that it was that sharp of a turn. I do think that with another episode or two, the story could have breathed a little bit better and they could have told it better. But I still think that her dissension, if we want to call it that, made sense. But backing up to like with Into the Badlands, MK, I don't think it really made a lot of sense. I don't like how his character progressed.
No, I wasn't a fan of it the first time I watched it. I'm not a fan of the, through this run as well. I mean, I know you want to create tension and try to drive stories, and that's great. But I think the way they did it was a little lazy, a little sloppy. I mean,
Yeah,
I think you could put more effort and focus into developing that and hashing it out, and because they took us to the route where Sonny apparently killed MK's mother and stuff like that. So now MK wants to have revenge, and it could have been out. It's like have the thing replay, and then Sonny's like, "No, I was there, but I'm not the one who did." It was
yeah,
something like that. I mean, you're going for the overall, and it fell flat. But other than that, I mean, fight choreography, music, just the cinematography alone. Um, when you see those poppy fields with the red and the green and the blue sky, oh my God, the vividness of the colors were just holy shit.
and the Baron, I don't remember his name, but Sonny's Baron in the
Quinn,
first season, Quinn,
yeah,
fucking phenomenal villain. I fucking love. He stole every scene that he was in.
and he's
Um,
Australian.
I saw him in something else, and I don't remember what it was. But like, I instantly I recognized his voice. I didn't recognize his face, but I recognized his voice, and like, it was so cool to place that. Um, the widow, she was a good character, but I don't know how I felt about her as a villain. I mean, then
I
again, she really wasn't a villain. Not really.
She's more of the anti-hero aspect of things, but I think by after the second season, when they got to the third season, they were trying to refocus on where they wanted to take her, and I instead of focusing on that character's strengths when it came to leadership and um, just badassery all around because her skills, I think that it fell a little flat because they were trying to humanize her like way too much in the third season. They're trying to give her all these flaws, which we already knew she had flaws. But it's like they were trying to bring more of that to the forefront, which I feel, pulls away from that development they had for their first two seasons.
So what I think that they really need to do, what I think that exemplifies is more TV shows need to have at least their first several seasons planned out start to finish. Um, you being a writer, you're probably aware of these terms. Uh, um, Into the Badlands was very much written by pantsers.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know that term, it's literally you fly by the seat of your pants. You write as you go. Um, and circling back to Game of Thrones, you can tell that George R. R. Martin is a quote pantser, which I really hate that term, but I don't have a better word for it. But you can tell because he will write his characters into a situation, but then he struggles getting them out, which is why Daenerys fucked around in Essos for so long because George R. R. Martin couldn't figure out how to get her back to Westeros. Um, and we'll go back if you prefer a TV uh, analogy,
Adaptation.
The Walking Dead. After a certain point in time, they were writing it as they went, which is why the last several seasons dragged out the way they did because they were struggling to actually get it to bring everything to a close. On the flip side of that coin, Breaking Bad and Sons of Anarchy were planned start to finish before the first camera ever rolled. And when you look at how the stories end, you can tell.
Yeah. So, speaking to that, as a writer, there are times that we do, as writers, write by the seat of our pants, and that's almost for I would probably say a majority of writers out there. We get an idea, and then what we do is we start fleshing out the idea on paper. We just try to start writing a little bit to see what we can develop out of it, stuff like that. And once we have that general concept, that's when we start planning it, start where we take it, stuff like that. For instance, if you look at some things like and in comparison, let's take the Marvel universe. From Iron Man basically to Endgame, it was concrete. They knew exactly where they wanted to take every single one of these movies. It may have changed slightly here and there, but they knew exactly the end goal. So when I'm writing something, first I do is I come up with a concept, I start writing it down, and start fleshing it out. And then I start, and we're talking, this is, and let's look at let's compare book and, make a reference to a single season of television. So you know what you want to happen in the book. You know what you want to happen in that first season. So you're putting in everything you need back and forth, how everything's going to play out, who's going to be introduced, who needs this, who needs that, what's going to happen. That's how your book goes. From start to finish, how that book is going to run. Characters are introduced, they're put in predicaments, put in worse predicaments, put in even worse predicaments, get out of it, and end book. Basically. That, for the majority of people, as writers, that is a very bastardized view of the writing process. Even if it's a short story. I mean, what is it? The Lottery. What was it? Shirley Jackson. I mean, short story. Which basically, briefly what the Hunger Games is based off of, depending on how you want to look at it. But even with like the Lottery, Shirley Jackson, she had this concept and then she knew exactly how she wanted to take it from point A to point B, or whatever point she wanted to get to. So, every writer is different. Writers are just as unique as personalities, but everyone has almost the same fundamentals and concepts on how to get from one area to another. So,
And actually, it just occurred to me the worst example of a pantser in terms of media, TV and movies, would be the fucking sequel trilogy to Star Trek or Star Wars. because
Yeah.
they did not have a goal from jump, which was their first mistake. And then when Ryan Johnson came in and did The Last Jedi, he literally just said, "Fuck this! I don't like this. We're not doing this." He literally said this is why he killed Snoke, because he didn't care about Snoke. But I'm sorry, that could have been a really interesting character.
Oh, absolutely. I think with the third trilogy series of Star Wars, they missed on a lot of points. Some of them are some instances they're trying to give too much fan service. Not some places they're not giving enough fan service. But I think the natural progression of that universe, how it went, was not exactly what we got. I don't particularly see Luke abandoning the Jedi Order because he feels that he failed with his nephew and as a Jedi Master. I more or less see pretty much what we saw in the secondary canon, the non-canon, where Luke went out and he found other Force users, and then started trying to build together this community, try to build the Jedi back up, whether it was you know lawful Jedi, whether it was as most people like to say, non-canon, but the gray Jedi, which I believe should be canon more than anything.
I
And
think Cal Kestis from the Jedi games right now is going to be a gray Jedi. I
yeah,
think he is.
I mean, so it's one of those things. I think the natural progression of how those characters work from the original trilogy, I don't think they captured that actual progression. Maybe Leia and her leadership abilities and whatnot, but I don't. I honestly wouldn't see the friction between Han and Leia as it was. I don't see Luke abandoning the Jedi Order in the way that he did. Um, yeah, so do it again, Disney.
Yeah, I understand why they couldn't do the Heir to the Empire series with Thrawn, because Heir to the Empire requires a much younger Luke than what Mark Hamill was at the time. Um, you could have done maybe an inspiration where instead of Luke, it's somebody that he trained. Maybe they could have brought up Jason Solo or the other one. I don't
The
remember his
twin,
name. Huh?
the twin, his sister.
Yeah, yeah. Jason is the one that I remember, but I don't remember the other one's name. Um, and it does look like we might be getting something along the lines of Heir to the Empire, because Thrawn did show up in the Ahsoka series.
Yes,
I'm
that's true.
very, very interested to see where that goes.
Well, you see,
Speak.
the thing is I was pissed when Ray came out to be as a Palpatine, basically, and I get it. But my thing is I really wanted to see that her name was Ray Bridger, because she was the child of Ezra Bridger, and we
I
we we already know that Rebels is canon.
Yeah,
So, I mean, to me, that would have tied everything together. And it could have been something like Luke goes, "Oh, I knew your father." And oh my God, look what you can do story wise with that.
I honestly was okay with the idea of her just coming from nothing, because I think that the entire Skywalker saga, we lean too heavily into strong bloodlines.
Yeah, well, it's one
Uh,
family's galactic shit ruining everything.
Basically. But then to make her a Palpatine, I'm just like,
It's too easy.
you got away from one bloodline and you shifted over to another one. And on the one hand, what they did establish, and I'm okay with this, is that your blood does not determine your nature or what your destiny is. So I think that may have been part of their goal, and they did do that. I'll give them that. But I mean, fuck, you could have had the Palpatine be a fucking storm. It could have been not Finn, because how that's going to raise a few questions, but somebody the same path as Finn, where it's a stormtrooper who left, he got disillusioned. That could have been a Palpatine, or hell, Poe Dameron. He could have been the Palpatine. So you could have had a Palpatine who becomes a hero. That's fine. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. But just
No,
they,
there's so many ways they could have taken it, and they fell flat on it. And my thing is one of the very like the climactic ending of the ninth movie.
oh
Where the
yeah, Rise of
where the
Skywalker.
where the fuck did all those ships come from? Who fucking made them, and how long have they fucking been there? Because what the
Oh,
fuck?
Exegol. Well,
Yeah,
Exegol was a hidden planet, so I mean,
yeah,
kinda.
but I mean, you're looking at the amount of the entire fucking armada they had. You're talking literally decades of fucking building. And it wasn't decades of building between the fucking movies. Maybe
So
2 or 3 decades, but not like 9 or 10 that you're going to need to build an armada that fucking size.
that one, I will say, definitely did need a little bit more story exposition because what I assume as a fan is that this is where Palpatine has been crawling around since the end of Return of the Jedi. So we're talking about 30 some odd years here. So 30 some odd years is enough time to build up the armada that he had, but why were you just dicking around for 30 years on this fleet?
Yeah.
That
And
didn't make sense.
yeah, and who are all the fucking people in that chamber?
Yeah, that they didn't really explain that either.
I mean,
I,
you could have went back and if you really wanted to get creative about it, it's like, oh, we have a resurgence of the Sith. Palpatine decides rule of two is not going to fucking cut it to take over the universe. We are going to bring back the Sith, and those could have all been Sith.
Actually, what I would have liked, and maybe this is what they tried to do, and they just didn't tell a good enough story for it. But they tried to create this idea for Palpatine, like 1,000 generations of Sith are all funneling into him, and the flip side for Rey for the Jedi. So I kind of like the idea that his audience in the chamber were Sith spirits. And
Okay.
thematically, story wise, it could have worked, but it would have needed a little bit more story exposition.
True, but I mean, if you look at Time of Exar Kun or anything like that, if those were if those happen to be Sith spirits, and if you're going way back, I think after a certain generation, everything Palpatine was doing, to enforce the rule of two and whatnot, which he really didn't enforce, considering the fact you had Inquisitors and shit like that, and apprentices. And,
Well,
but
Inquisitors and apprentices were not true Sith. They were users, but not actually Sith.
True, but at some point it was the apprentice to kill the master and then become the apprentice to the grandmaster or whatever shit, whatever. So let's, for instance, let's take Starkiller, for instance. Let's say it took a different route and, he eliminated Vader. Then does he become the apprentice to, Palpatine?
That's probably how it would have went.
Or does, Starkiller and Vader kill Palpatine, and then it's just Vader and Starkiller, and then Starkiller takes on apprentice? I mean, it's one of those things that I think the Sith, if you're talking about times of the Old Republic and stuff like that, would look at the rule of two and think, how is this, moving the Sith forward? How is this making the Sith the powerful?
So this is actually my headcanon when it comes to Palpatine and the Rule of Two. I think that ultimately this is why Palpatine failed, lost, whatever you want to call it, because he did not actually follow the Rule of Two. The fucking clones, like, he had no intention of dying. He also had no intention of Vader ever succeeding him. And you can prove that because he post Mustafar, like post Mustafar, you already have a fairly broken Vader. Still very capable, but he is a broken man. And Palpatine proceeded to continue breaking him at every possible opportunity. He always had to assert his dominance, prove his superiority. He did teach Vader some things, but he always kept Vader handicapped, for lack of a better way to put it. And I think that that ultimately is what led to his downfall because he perverted the rule of two. Had he let Vader, not let, but had he enabled Vader to take the mantle and choose his own apprentice, I think the Empire would have actually carried on.
Okay, I can buy into that. All right, I mean, it's Star Wars. It's just got done fucked up. I mean,
Yeah.
I just watched the last episode of Skeleton Crew, and I'm sorry, Jude Law is the most fucking Star Wars name out there.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it's ended. Hopefully that was its only season. Um, it was okay. It was cute, and I get they probably were doing it to bring in younger viewers to build on Star Wars legacies and stuff like that. But I feel they just lost so much potential with it.
I know one thing I will say. My biggest lamentation, we'll use that word, with the fact that they waited so long to do the sequel trilogy and we basically have old man Luke, we'll call it, is because we skipped to this stage of his life, we as fans were robbed of Mara Jade,
Yeah. Yeah.
who was a fucking fantastic character. That could have been so good.
Honestly, she was vital to the original storyline. Extremely vital because if not for her, Luke basically becomes Vader.
And I remember, was she supposed to be there during Return of the Jedi at Jabba's palace, or was she actually there? I don't remember.
I don't recall. I I don't know. I'll have to go back and look because there's possible chance that maybe it's in the extended footage.
Well, I'm going off of the books that I read when she was hunting Luke afterwards, um, and she was either there when they killed Jabba or she was supposed to be there because I remember she had a vision when R2 popped out the lightsaber and Luke summons it. Mara had a vision that it came to her, not Luke,
Hmm.
which would have completely changed the complexion of how that played out.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll have to go back. I mean, there might be like a visual of somebody who was supposed to be Mara Jade, but who knows? Yeah, but it's Star Wars. I they have a chance to redeem themselves, and let's hope they do it.
I know that they are looking to do a new series focused on Rey and her rebuilding the Jedi Order. Me personally, I would much more appreciate fuck the Skywalkers, fuck the Palpatines, fuck all of Solos, all of them. Let's skip ahead about 200 years.
Oh, yeah. So
Because
basically, their names are just footnotes in a book.
yeah, let's skip ahead 200 years so that way you don't have to stick to any of those established stories. You can do your own thing, which
Oh,
is
there's going to be a Skywalker in there somewhere.
technically there shouldn't be because even though she took the Skywalker name after Ben's Kylo, whatever you want to call him, the bloodline is dead. So there shouldn't be more, but we'll see. And even if there is a Skywalker, make it a supporting character, not the main one.
Yeah. or change
They
up
had
the
their
name a
time.
bit. Maybe change up the name a bit. Instead of a Skywalker, just have like Sky whatever, and just like any relation to, and they could be like, no, no.
uh, they could do it like on Superman Red Sun, because at the end of the series, have you read this or
Yeah,
watched the movie at all?
yeah.
So at the end of the series, you find out that Earth actually becomes Krypton, and the House of L is an abbreviation to Luthor. So fuck it, go that route. If you want
Yeah.
to keep the Skywalkers in the picture, like just change it a little bit, like or something.
Yep. Call him Sky with an E at the end.
Yeah. Or fuck it, let him go back. Let Starkiller be. Actually, that was supposed to be his name in the first place.
What, Star Killer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are out of time, and we'd like to thank you for tuning in and listening. This has been Men Behind the Curtain. I am Pitt.
I'm Eli. As always, like I keep saying, may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Actually, hopefully next week I'll be on my new laptop. So I think my picture quality is pretty good now, but it should be better then.
Yeah, it's all right. You need more on the walls.
Oh, we'll get there.
All right.
Y'all
See you,
take it
everybody.
easy.